Are you ready to unlock the secret of living a life of strength, balance, and longevity? I'm Anita Terlizzi, and I have helped hundreds of men and women transform their lives by placing their health and wellness as a priority. I am a certified personal trainer, founder of Thrive 55, and your host of the Made to Thrive podcast, where health experts from around the globe join us as we dive deep into topics that help us age gracefully and stronger than ever. This is where we take back our lives, friends. This is where we learn to embrace and celebrate this new normal we call middle age. I call this our second act. We have so much living to do, so let's not waste any more time. We weren't made to just survive these years of our lives. We were made to thrive. Welcome to Made to Thrive podcast with your host, Anita Terlizzi. Thank you so much for coming today. I have the best time doing these podcasts because I get to interview so many people from different walks of life, different education, different experiences that they get to share with me and you. So today is a very special day because I get to interview my amazing sister, Andrea. So thank you for coming on, my dear sister.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, good. So I chose you because I just thought it would be a beautiful way to honor our mother who now lives with you. And we'll get
Yes.
into that a little later. And just the challenges that she's facing, and then the challenges for caregivers like yourself. And so I know that there are many, many, many people who will be able to relate with you and be inspired by you. So that's why I chose you to be on this show today. So before we get started on mom, I want my audience just to get to know you a little bit. So tell me a little bit about your background, your education, what you did before you went full-time caregiver.
Okay. So I was in education for 30 plus years. Divorced mom of three, pretty much raised my kids on my own. And during that time, my kids were junior high, high school. I thought that I was going to go into business for myself. And so I was getting my master's degree, got my master's degree in autism in 2008, when the country kind of collapsed at that time. And so going off on my own to do something independent was a little scary at the time. So I stuck with education, not typical special educator, but my job was more as a behavior consultant for children with autism and emotional challenges. I became a state trainer and did that for about 17 years, where we would train various school districts throughout the state of Illinois. That was kind of the boom of autism and education in schools for children with autism. So I did that, fell in love with the training, fell in love with the supporting adults as opposed to getting into the classroom as a teacher. So most of my career from about 2000 on was more of a trainer of trainers and a trainer of teachers. Fell in love with that, became a certified trainer for our behavioral coaching, our behavioral techniques. I did that for quite a while. And towards the end of my career, with COVID changing the situation and really pulling me out of the presentation mode and put me back into the classroom, I really felt like it wasn't a good fit for me. So I did choose to retire a year early, actually a couple of years early. I probably should have gone to 63. I retired at 60. That's all when things started happening with mom as well. So I kind of feel like God created that situation for me to be able to do what I'm now doing, and that's being with mom on a pretty much full-time basis.
Right. I remember all of that. That was, I know that you were kind of creeping towards the end of your career, but honestly, I think you were kind of pushed.
Yeah, I was definitely pushed, but I will say COVID changed the educational system, the public educational system, and it was no longer what I didn't feel like I was participating and helping the way that I wanted to.
Yeah, the whole change with the school system and education, that's a whole nother podcast I might pull you in on.
Absolutely.
Because
I
that
could
is
get on my
another,
soapbox for that one.
yeah, there's a lot of things that you probably learned and things that you can empathize with families that had to go through online. It was
Yeah,
hard.
absolutely. And the
So
isolation. Yeah.
yes, the isolation brings us to the isolation. I remember, so mom was, see, she was thriving in that, the home that we had put her in, the independent living. And she was at that status, independent living. She had the ability to go up and down the elevator to meet the friends. She had listened to someone play piano and she played cards and she had a kind of social life. And
She did.
in my opinion, you could correct me at any time, when COVID hit and everyone kind of panicked, especially about that age group, that generation that was in the senior homes, it was a panic move and they locked everybody up. And mom changed after that. That was a year of isolation, a year behind staring at four walls. Even the caregivers of that organization wouldn't even come to in the door. They would
Right.
leave the food. I mean, it was looking back, it's mind blowing, isn't it?
It,
What had
yeah,
happened?
it is. And having to visit your loved ones through a window and just
Right.
wave. I can remember, we decorated outside for Easter, put signs in the yard so that we could wave to her because that was Easter. And for a family and a mom where holidays were everything, you always
Hmm.
get together at holidays. It was heartbreaking. It was
Right.
heartbreaking.
So she started a mental decline and then she started a physical decline and she just started getting soft. Her muscles were atrophying. She wasn't balanced. Um, our family has a history of neuropathy, so she was already struggling with some of those problems anyway. So when did, when did you decide? Because you made the big decision to raise your hand and say, she can come live with me. Um, when did you decide it was time?
It had to do partly with COVID. It had to do partly with the fact that she had fallen and broken her pelvic bones. And she was placed into rehab. She was in rehab for a couple of months. And so it was even a different facility at that time. And it was more of a state run, the elderly lined up in wheelchairs down the hallway, buckled in, people just passing by. It was hard. And at one point she was put on the first floor. And I remember that's the only way I could get to her is to go to the window and knock on the window. At that time, I was also looking for a home and part of the criteria for looking for a home, I guess I've always felt that probably because I've always lived close to mom. I watched her take in our grandma, Nani. I guess it was just, that's just what we're going to do. That's just what you have to do. So when I started to look for a house, that was part of my criteria. Somehow we would have to have a space for her. I looked for over a year and a half. So it was kind of an ongoing thing.
Yeah, I
But
remember.
it was a long process because nothing was ever quite right. And I had some nice things I wanted on my list. And when this property became available and it hit everything, I
Right.
knew it was God's intervention. This has to be it. And
Right.
so she was still in rehab when I purchased the home. She got out of rehab, and when they were releasing her, they said she's no longer qualified for independent living. She is now assisted living. After sitting down with the place and talking to them about what that would mean financially, it was almost double the price and
Right. We couldn't
for
do it.
limited support. And everything was a line item. It cost you one thing for the girl to open the door and ask if you're okay. It costs something else if you want her to actually come in and make sure she takes her medicine. She had no plans financially, so she wasn't going to survive very long on an assisted living program.
Right.
That was a private facility. If we were to go to a state-run facility, we had already seen those in the state of Illinois because she was in rehab at a state-run facility. There was no way we're going to do that.
Right.
She'd share a bunk bed with me. Whatever it was
Right.
going to take, she was
Right.
not going to be there. So I purchased this home in December of 2020, and she moved in with me February of 2021. So she came home. She was on assisted living for a month while we were trying to update her home. And then we moved her in February of 2021.
Right. And I remember helping set that up and coming home and we
Yep.
painted rooms and really wanted to
Yep.
make this beautiful place. Excuse my dogs that are trying to jump on me. That's what happens when you do podcasts from home.
That's right. Hi, girl.
And I remember at that point, she was in a walker. And so she was mobile. And I think in all of our heads, she was going to be pretty independent in that house.
Yep.
Because the house isn't it for the audience. It's an attached apartment to my sister's home. So it's really a lovely setup. And I'm trying to remember when we decided to get caregivers to actually have people come over for a couple hours a day. Do you remember how long that was?
So of that year, unfortunately, in April is when my leg was broken,
Yeah.
and I was in my own rehab for a month. I was taken out of the house and was in rehab for over a month. During that time, everybody in the family had to quickly run together and figure it out and piecemeal support for mom while I was gone. When I came home, I was in a wheelchair, and I wasn't very mobile and wasn't able to do a whole lot. I couldn't do lifting because I couldn't stand myself. So physical assistance for her was still hard. So I think it was all during this time. I was
We
in a
got a
wheelchair
regular
for,
rotation.
yeah, we had to start, and then I started back at school in August of 2021. And that's when she started with more frequent falls. We installed cameras, and every time she would fall, she couldn't get herself up. She was the commercial. Sorry, can I say
Right.
that? Help, I've
Right.
fallen and I can't get up.
Right.
So I would have to leave work. I would have to leave school.
Yeah.
And
Tell me about that, because I bet that's a big struggle for a lot of people that have their parents in their place. They think they're safe. They've got the help because, you know, we were fortunate enough that we have enough money to pay people to come in for, 4 hours here and there. But that is if you find dedicated staff. And that was a big struggle for you.
it still is. That's still, I mean, right now we're very fortunate with who we have, but up until just recently, that's always, to me, that's always the number one issue. And we've done everything from just finding people ourselves, posting online, posting on Facebook, looking for people who are looking for that type of a job. And we've also gone through agencies. The agency isn't necessarily better. You're not provided with better care. I don't feel, at least we weren't, and we went through several different agencies.
Yeah.
So the caregiver that's the hardest thing, I think, is making sure that you have people you're comfortable with. As an educator, I had my summers off, so that was always great. But I also didn't know that I was going to be the 24/7 caregiver for that long either. So wanting to have a break for myself, I think was still high on the priority list too.
Right.
It's a burnout position.
For sure.
It's
That's why
burnout
I always
position.
say to the family, we got to love on that caregiver as much as we're loving on the patient or, the one that needs the love. So
Absolutely.
you know how much I appreciate you and love you.
I do. I do. Thank you.
So I'm living in Arizona. My family lives in Illinois. I do my best to get out every 3 months and stay 5 to 7 days. I always wish I could do more, and I do what I can, when they need it, as far as even a new chair or a walker or that sort of thing. So for those of you who can't be with your parent, there's always ways to love on your mom or dad, and also love on the person taking care of your parent. I remember sending one of your caregivers she really wanted to go to a concert, and I sent her 2 tickets for her and her son to go, and just those little things, because you're trying to get them to stay and know that they're appreciated, because it's a hard job. you know
Right.
every time I come home, it is a new normal. And so it's a little nerve wracking, because you guys know what to do. Mom is now completely unable to walk. So there's the physical part of being able to lift her from chair to wheelchair, wheelchair to toilet, toilet to chair, chair to bed, the whole thing. And, we're going to talk about that in a little bit too, that just the keeping physically and mentally strong. We are going to touch on that. But what are your thoughts on the changes that are made with mom when I come out and you have to show me kind of the new routine? She can't swallow like she used to. We thicken everything. And it was really hard for me emotionally as my mom was aging so fast before my eyes. Do you have any thoughts on that?
And I do think that that is really hard. I don't know if there's a better spot. The person who doesn't have to watch it daily, is that easier or is that harder so that when you come home, it's more heartbreaking? Because
Mm,
I'm in the decline with her.
right.
So we both have our emotional challenges with that. I think sometimes part of it, what makes it a little bit better coming from me is that I keep things very organized with systems, and we have a setup. Here's the notebook where we communicate back and forth with the caregivers and myself. And then if a caregiver comes in only once every couple of weeks, she can go through the notebook and she can look at, oh, I see that she was having a rough week, but things are much better now. Or, oh, it seems like she's on the decline. We have a regular chart now where we keep blood pressure and her oxygen levels. And we just do it, once in the morning, once at night. We keep it daily so that we can quickly look over and say, hey, it does seem to be getting up there. We have a calendar routine where we have certain days are covered by certain people. If you're going to switch or you're going to do something, you do it in a different color on the calendar. It's all color coded, which,
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Like
and
anyone really could just step in and know what to do.
that was the goal. And I don't know
Yeah,
if that came from part of in education. I used to train all of the paraprofessionals, all of the assistants. And
definitely.
this is what we would do. You want to be able to pull somebody in, a substitute in off the street, and they can be able to do what we're doing because it's that
Right.
clear.
Right.
Posting notes in the bathroom. Don't do this. You should do this. I'm
Yeah,
actually
all those
getting ready.
gentle reminders.
Yeah, I'm actually getting ready for your visit next week. And that I'm going through going, oh, we didn't do it like this last time. I'm going to need to write this up for her. Maybe I
Yeah.
should take pictures. We have different, hygiene products. And how do you even put
Yeah.
this together?
Yeah. Oh my
So those are
goodness.
those are
I
all the
have to
things
make a
that,
comment. When I
okay,
was there and I'm working with mom, and it sometimes is like working with a child
a giant toddler.
and a giant toddler,
She
and I'm
is.
doing my thing, and she's just like, they don't do it this way. This is not how the girls do it. I go, Mom, there's a new sheriff in town for 5 days. We're just not going to tell them.
It's okay if you use tape to hold up your diaper, Mom. I
Yeah,
promise.
honestly, it was like I needed duct tape. There was like 4 layers. I felt like I was, wrestling a folding chair. And so, that whole, I tell you, humor probably is
Mm,
something that's gotten our whole family through a lot of things. It's probably a little
mm.
twisted and a little sick, but we are really funny.
We can
And my
be.
and my mother's really funny. Yeah, we can be. Just ask us, right?
Right.
And mom's really funny. And I find that when she is in those hard places, because it's hard on her and she gets depressed, and there's always a way to slip humor in and change her mood and get a giggle
Absolutely.
in. It's really amazing. Another sweet moment I had with mom, she was really in a bad place and was in no mood to have conversations. So we were just going to get the routine done. I was going to put her to bed. I get her into bed, which was hilarious anyway, because I don't know which one of you, it was probably our oldest sister that watched me on the camera as I fell back with mom, right? 'Cause I wanted to scoot her and like land her perfectly so her head hits a pillow. But we both just went flying and I'm on top of her. And we're laughing so hard. And Amy's like, that's not how we do it. I'm like, but anyway, she was still she wasn't in the mood to be silly. I was laughing. So I finally get her in bed. I'm about to walk out. And I don't know what hit me, but mom was always really sweet about bedtime games and little things that she did, little songs, little tickles, little
Oh,
whatever it was. And she had this tickle bug, not to get too deep into this for the audience, but there's a tickle bug game. And it always starts with, oh, you're not wearing pink pajamas on a Thursday. Those aren't right. And you're giggling as a kid because you know the tickle bugs are coming at you. And so it was really dark. She was in the room, about to leave, and it just hit me. And I stopped and I turned around and I said, oh no, those aren't flowers on your pillowcase. It's Wednesday. So she's giggling and she's like, don't. And I went in and tickled. It was just, and you know what? The moment, and then she just had this great big laugh. And it was like mom got plugged back in. And she remembered who I was. She remembered you came all the way from Arizona. How are the kids?
aw.
How's your husband? And she remembered everything. That whole evening, she was really out of it. And it was a beautiful moment to have a memory that she instilled in us. And then I brought it
Oh,
out and caused this big laughter. And then my mom snapped back.
no. Yeah.
So it was very precious. It was very precious. So
Yeah.
I want to ask if you, and this might be a tricky question because you wanted to think about this, but if you could look back and do something differently, what would it be?
I think I would have had the family address all of this and address the future a lot sooner. I feel like it was kind of like if you don't talk about it, it's not really happening. Mom's not getting older. We're not going to have to worry about mom because we're just not going to talk about it. And then boom, here it is. And it was almost a rush to, we got to do something. Like we don't have anything else. Um, so I definitely would have had the family conversations when mom was still with it, when we were in our 20s or 30s, where we're sitting down as a family going, one day we're going to have to make some plans. What's that going to look like? And mom, what is it that you want? I think that I just kind of took it for granted that this is just what you do. She took in Nani. Nobody asked mom. No, none of mom's siblings ever said, let's get together and talk about it. It was just,
Right.
now mom was the only female at that time able to do that. And that's usually more likely a woman than a man to take in their parents. However, I am seeing, and in our age group, I'm seeing a lot more men and or married couples who are having to do this. We're having to take in our parents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I talked to a gentleman last night and I said, we're that sandwich generation. We're taking care of our parents and we're still taking care of our own kids. And now we're even taking, I mean, we got a little extra put on our sandwich. We're taking care of our grandkids.
Right.
And it's what you do if you, especially I think if you were raised in that situation where that it was just the norm, nobody even really talked about it. So that definitely would be one thing that I would see that should be different, is that people should be talking about it. It's not a pleasant conversation to say, oh, one day my mom's going to die.
Right.
But if you get all of that written down and you get down your wishes and you know, right now we have siblings, you and I have other siblings that I don't know that we all agree or understand what mom's wishes are. They've been changed. And really, they weren't changed with me. They were changed with you, but not with. So I don't think we all are on the same page about some of her
Right.
wishes.
Right.
And that happened with our dad as well.
Yeah.
When he passed, it was kind of the same thing because we never really had the big
We were
group
caught
meeting.
off guard. Yeah, we
Yeah.
were all caught off guard. And the other thing is we didn't know what to expect with mom. And
Yeah.
so I'm going to speak on your behalf. I think probably one of our challenges was allowing you to have a break and having this rotation of help even within the siblings. And I'm very careful to have this conversation because it's real easy for me living this far away, right? And that's just it. People have lives, and some people, you raised your hand for this. Others are also still working and doing their lives. So I would throw out to anyone listening, because I'm going to ask you about if you have any wisdom to share with people who are about to take this in. But one of my nuggets would be really have a family meeting where if one of them is doing this, what does that look like? And because we take for granted that we can just take off for the weekend and go up and have a whatever trip, whatever. You can't do that. You have to be back because the caregiver is going to leave and your mother's home. And so anyway, I think that's just probably the biggest thing that I've gathered in all of this is just to make sure that, and every dynamic is different. All these families are
Right.
different. Some children aren't even speaking to each other. Thank goodness ours is still loving each other, supporting each other. But I do think that system would have been great to
Yeah.
let you have a weekend off, once a month, that sort of thing. So for anybody who's crazy enough to take their parents in, no. I should say who's loving enough to bring their mom or dad in.
A little bit crazy too.
How do you keep your spirits up? What wisdom and nuggets can you give someone who's planning that?
I guess there's a couple things I would say. One, I think that the more knowledge and understanding you have of your parents' decline, whether it be a physical ailment or it be mentally or both, the more understanding you have of it, the better it is. I was told at one point, mom was put on hospice, and I asked what to expect. Like, what do we expect? Like, what is this going to look like tomorrow? So I have no idea, right? And she said, well, you're a mom, right? You've raised children. And I said, yeah. And she says, so you watch them develop from infancy to not being able to do anything. And then they were able to do some things. And then they're reaching, and then they're, reaching across their bodies, and they're learning to talk, and they're learning to walk. And there are developmental stages that the child has gone through. And she says, what you're going to experience is the reverse. And you're going to watch those things decline, potentially even disappear.
Right.
And as hard as it was to hear that, I mean, if I sit and focus on it in the moment, it's excruciating emotionally. But knowing that this is her process gives me a better understanding of not being frustrated with her. I mean, we all get frustrated with our toddler, right? We all got frustrated with the 3-year-old. You've told them 100 times not to do something and they keep doing it. But knowing that that's what she's doing because that's where her brain is at gives you this ability to understand it better and accept it better. I will say that in addition to the knowledge of the decline and what it's going to look like, at the time that she's declining, my faith was increasing.
Beautiful. Yeah.
It was I look back at it now and I see all the things, and because it's hard. You don't think you're going to be able to get through it. And there's times where you're angry. There's times when you're just sad.
Yeah.
But my faith that God chose me to do this is my job. This is my purpose. This is my task right now. And if he thinks I can do it, he gave me that gift of being able to do this for her. Who am I to say that I'm not going to, or I can't? So I still get sad. I still get concerned. I still get worried that I'm not doing it well. Sometimes I'm glad that she forgets if I mess up. So if I snap
First day, she doesn't even know you were there.
She doesn't even know that I was here this morning. But the humor plays a big part of it. Mom was really silly. Mom was, she was always the life of a party. And I am so grateful that she has not gone down the path where she's angry or she's agitated. or aggressive. I don't have experience with that. Our grandmother never did that, and
Right.
she's not doing that. And I'm forever
Right.
grateful for that, because I don't know
Yes.
that I could do the same thing that I'm doing now if I had to experience
Right.
anger and the aggression. I'd like to think I
Right.
could, but you don't. That would be really hard. That would be really different.
Well, I learned a lot. I have learned a lot watching you. I would say that God did prepare you for this time in our life because, um, working with special needs takes a special kind of person too. It takes a lot of patience. You're not allowed to raise your voice or you'll get in big trouble. You know how to do
Right?
and I see it. I see it with mom because she can be a little brat sometimes. And
A toddler.
you are just very sweet and calm. And you repeat it again. Do you remember? We spoke about this. And learning things like it's okay if they don't remember um that someone passed away, for example. We've watched mom relive the death of her mother. It's horrible. I would say a big tip to caregivers is you don't have to correct them. You don't have to tell them they're alive.
Amen.
They're dead, right? I I just did someone check on Nani? Nani's our grandmother. And is she okay? I'm like, oh, she is having the time of her life, which is true. She's in heaven. And
Right.
you go,
Exactly.
she is the joy on mom's face knowing that her mother was having the time of her life today. That's all it is. We don't need to
And
correct them.
I do. Some of the caregivers we have worked with, oh, I can't lie to her. I'm not comfortable lying to her. And that's not what it is.
Mm-mm.
It's about meeting her where she's at, and her memory at that moment is, her grandmother lives across the street from us, by the way. She
Right,
doesn't, but that's what mom
right.
thinks because it's a farm.
And sometimes I
Um,
go to my softball game.
and you have to go to your softball game, and I have to get you off the school bus and make sure
Right.
that I give you $1 for lunch every day.
That's so
And
nice.
I just go along with mom. Anybody who needed money for lunch, they've got it. So it's just making her. Mom was the caregiver. She took care of the
Right. That's why
world.
her brain
Like
is in that
that's
mode all the
that's where
time.
she's at. So
Mhm.
I'm not going to take that away from her. She still wants to care for people. She's When she was more cognizant that people were coming to take care of her, it made her crazy. She hated it. She never wanted to be taken care of.
Right. I know.
She
I
was
know.
always the one who took care of others.
She
And
often
so
still apologizes as you're helping her off the
absolutely.
toilet and giving her a bath and
Yeah.
yeah.
Almost every night she says that.
I
She's
know.
sorry that she's caused so much problems, or
Oh, mama.
she's glad that she's being taken good care of.
And she does it to me when I visit and she says, here's a fun fact. I wet the bed till I was 10.
Thanks for
And so
sharing.
I know. See a little bit more about me. So my mother now wets her bed and she's embarrassed about it. And I have to change the sheets and diapers and the whole thing. And she's like, I'm so sorry. This must be so embarrassing for you. And I said, Mother, did you change my sheets? And she goes, I did. I go, what goes around comes around. Isn't that you always said, So I think those gentle reminders that, and just even, she's used to being undressed around maybe 4 people, 3 or 4 people. So she knows I'm someone that's not normally looking at her undressed. And so just making that a comfortable place for her. Oh, we're just
Absolutely.
girls. It's okay, mom. We're just girls. Or let me step aside. Like you have privacy. And, I think it's been a learning curve for all of us.
Absolutely.
It does make me sad that she didn't take better care of herself. That generation was very different. That generation was about comfort food. It was really, growing up in blue collar South Side of Chicago. Um, it was the wealthy who exercised, right? They had the tennis club and the golf club. That
Right.
is not our
And
world.
it seemed more as a social experience to
Yes,
I belong to the tennis club. It's not I work
right,
out because I'm trying to be healthy. It's I belong to the
right,
tennis club.
right. But because of that, they were moving.
Yeah.
And I know still those families and how
It's
well
true.
their parents are because
Yep.
of the activity they had. And so now here we are. Now we touched a little bit about how, uh, yes, emotionally draining on the caregiver, but then there's the physical part, right? And so just keeping your strength up so you don't blow out your back when you're trying to get someone off a floor or off a chair or catching them off guard, when they fall and you get caught off guard. Now you're grabbing someone. Um, and so me, I've been this is not a new message to you from me. Um, would you agree that you could be taking care of yourself well, anyway, but especially these caregivers? Because you really want to crawl back into bed.
Absolutely.
Exhausting.
And when you get time off, you want to sit and do nothing. You just want to relax. You don't want to go do more stuff emotionally and physically.
How do you fit it in? I know you go for walks with mom.
We do take her for walks. I happen to live by a beautiful place that's surrounded by forest preserves. So that's really helpful to be able to get out where it's quiet and it's peaceful.
Peaceful.
Um, Finding time to do that, I think the motivation is really hard. There's the talk of, oh, I'm going to join the gym, but am I really going to go to the gym? Because I hear if you join it, that's not the end all. You actually have to go, and then you actually have to
Right,
participate.
right.
So,
Well, the answer to that problem, is Thrive 55 app.
absolutely.
So
And
you don't have
so
to go to it. It will come to
it will
you.
come to me, and that's
Yeah.
what I'm looking forward to.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
in question for a question for me of how do I motivate myself or get me going, it's you. It's
Aw.
looking at you and following Misfit and then seeing what it's done for you and seeing the energy. You are my motivation to want to do better for myself and want to feel better.
Mm,
I envy the things that you have and your things that you're capable of doing because you are healthy. The friendships you have, I think you surround yourself by good, healthy people.
mm,
And I think that's really important. I have found myself since living here and taking care of mom, and I think this is a danger for caregivers, is the isolation.
right.
Um, I don't have a significant other in my life. I retired and now make sure that she's taken care of. I'm not with her 24/7, but I'm aware of her 24/7. So I have to be home at certain times. I know
Yeah.
when it's my turn to actually physically be with her and be the caretaker.
Yeah. It's a
Um,
tight season for you.
it is, and it's isolating, and
So you
that's a
kind of have
fear
to
of
step.
mine.
Yeah, I know. I know it is for you. And I love you're going on your first mission trip
Yes,
in a week. And that
terrifying,
is
by the way.
huge. That is huge that you stepped out and had courage. It's not easy to join a group that of people you don't know,
Yeah.
get on a plane, travel, and go take care of people or communities. In your case, this is trafficked children.
And adults,
Yeah. So it's going to be
domestic
emotionally hard on
violence.
you.
Yeah.
People are probably like, why aren't you going to the beach? Why would you put yourself
Right.
in that position?
Well, and which is a good point because I too, I think I am very much like my mom in that
Right.
growing up,
The
I was the
caregiver.
caretaker. I was the one who was taking care of other people. I was the one helping to make it work. I helped to do it with Nani. I helped to do it with my mom. I did it with my kids
Right.
without support of a significant other. It's just what I know to do. I don't
Yeah.
know to take care of me.
All right, I
Um,
want everyone to know that when my mom goes to heaven, I do plan on taking my sister to the beach. Okay. We're going to have a fantastic vacation. I will buy
Yay!
her endless pina coladas.
Yay! I can't wait. Well, I can wait.
Okay.
Like,
I know what you mean.
yeah, that didn't
Oh
sound
my
very good.
gosh. Well, you are amazing. I think that was one, it's just people we don't have all the answers, but it is nice to know that there's people out there that are going through it and surviving. And I would say you are doing an amazing job. My mom's home is filled with love and joy. It's clean, it's organized. when I walk in, she knows my name. I know that's because of you constantly talking about all of us siblings, all the kids. I know that you're bringing in your grandsons and bringing in other generations to that older generation is huge.
Huge,
Um,
absolutely huge.
it's a big deal. And so you have created this amazing environment for mom that I have said this before. I will never be able to thank you enough or pay you back for what you've done. It is an honor to be able to have your mom around and see her even when it's hard. You are the one that gets to have so much precious time with her.
Absolutely.
And sometimes people look at the sick and the elderly as a burden, and you've never said that. You've never complained. You've complained about being tired, of course. But you've always said I wouldn't have it any other way.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so that is beautiful. So I hope that you still continue dreaming of your future because at our age group we're not going downhill. Like we have to change our mindset that we're on our second act, right? And the Lord is using you right now in this season, but there's more to come. And so I just want to encourage you to keep dreaming of the future, have hopes and dreams, and put yourself out there and be awkward and weird and fail and pick
I could
up
do that.
and do it again and again and again, and you're going to meet incredible people. So just keep fighting for it like you always do.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, I love you,
Has been
dear
a
sister.
privilege. Thank
Thank
you.
you
I
for
love
being,
you.
and I'm going to bring you on again when we have other topics because you're a natural at this.
I have a lot to say.
Okay, me too. We're real good at talking.
We are good at talking. Listening, but talking is
Oh
good.
my gosh. All right. Have a good day.
It's awesome. Thank you. You too. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Made to Thrive podcast, a Thrive 55 Plus production. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review as it really helps support us. If you want to learn more about how you can transform your life and age powerfully with us, please visit mythrive55.com.